Letterboxd is a social media app that connects film fans from around the world. It helps foster a community of passionate movie fans, spreads awareness for diverse films that might normally get lost in a sea of infinite content, and gives a platform to the people, allowing anyone from anywhere to share their voice. And so I'm about to find the absolute worst takes on Letterboxd and make them regret ever making this app that I am hopelessly addicted to. Alright, let's start off with The Godfather, universally considered to be one of the best movies of all time. How bad could the takes possibly be? The Godfather. Bad movie, bad quality, bad actors, bad director, just bad at all things. Half a star. Alright, this is a pretty eloquently put together takedown of The Godfather, so I'm really curious what their other film takes are. They have reviewed 8 movies on Letterboxd, 2 of them just being Chinatown. They downgraded that from 3 stars to 2.5 stars. They gave Step Up Revolution 5 stars, and they gave 50 Shades of Grey 4 stars. And they said, besides the sex scene, it's phenomenal. I think I just found the husband of that woman on TikTok who explained how her and her husband watched Oppenheimer in the theater. Godfather, more like Midfather. Nothing about this movie stands out to me. The plot just isn't intriguing. This is a long, slow-paced movie that frankly is just boring. I have no idea how someone could watch this 3-hour movie and go, that's one of the greatest movies of all time. There's nothing there. Nothing that compels me to like this movie. I know I'm in the strict minority, but I don't care. 5 out of 10. Alright, so if Godfather is the bar for mid, what passes that bar and becomes good? Zoey 102. This movie was predictably generic, but it had some enjoyability to it, and I loved the show, so it was nice to see the cast again, but I hate they didn't include the entire original cast, and some characters didn't get enough attention compared to others that didn't deserve it as much. I wish Michael had a bigger role. I didn't think this movie was bad because I am somewhat biased. 6.3 out of 10. You know, I think if Roger Ebert was still alive today, he would agree with this review. Thumbs up because it's nice to see the cast again. Thumbs down because it didn't have enough Michael. Everything everywhere all at once. It lacked character, on first sight seemed to have had a lot of potential, but really let me down as the main character was of the female species. And we all know females can't drive, am I right my Brexit boys? P.S. not as good as Avengers Endgame or Spider-Man No Way Home or The Flash, as these are real cinema, some of my favorite pieces of art. If you enjoyed this movie, you're either a loner craving for attention but was never given one, or you're just pretending to like it. Half a star. I know things about the multiverse from the Flash TV series, and I didn't like when they keep on popping in and out of different events that could happen. I find this movie uncomfortable for me with certain things in the film that should not have. Half a star. I love that this person has one context for a multiverse, and it is the Flash TV series. This has big guy who's only seen The Flash. This reminds me of The Flash energy. No wonder this makes people feel good, but I can't decide what exactly this movie tries to achieve with it or in general. What is this film's point? As imaginative as it tries to be in execution, it fails to be original in any substantive way because the ideas are either laughably bad or borrowed. I have never seen more lazy execution of any idea related to multiverse or anything similar to it. As much as I agree with the statement taxation is theft, I really did not want a whole movie dedicated to the destruction of the IRS. And this is also a part of this user's list, films I absolutely hate for philosophical reasons. Alright, personally, I really love Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's one of my favorite films I've seen in the past several years, but you're free to disagree and dislike it. But to say that the movie is lazy? I mean, come on. But also have to check out this list, films I absolutely hate for philosophical reasons, which includes Parasite, The Worst Person in the World, Joker, Us, Rashomon, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Alright, I'll give this list Joker because I actually do agree that it's kind of a garbage movie. But Parasite, Worst Person in the World, Us, Rashomon? This is the user's take on Parasite. I cannot believe this nonsense is winning all of the awards. This movie is so evil, vile, and wrong on many levels. This is not a movie about gap between the rich and the poor. This is a movie about a perfectly normal family, the Parks, being violated by a family of thieves, frauds, and killers. Pretending it's social commentary on class difference is just ignorant and morally bankrupt. Gosh, this guy clearly does not understand the movie Parasite, and also doesn't understand social commentary if he thinks that all it requires is poor people good, rich people bad. One of the key themes of Parasite is about how it's about a lower income family who are neglected and forgotten about by the system. They're forced to social climb using methods that the rich elites have been using for years, putting down other people to advance their own personal goals. I think Parasite's a great movie that's pretty obvious with its themes, and it's pretty funny to see someone so confident with their words being so wrong about what they're talking about. Morbius. Very good movie, I really liked it. Thought the graphics were good and everything, but it did remind me a bit of Vampire Diaries, like the concept of drinking blood and stuff. But still, good movie, worth the watch. This person's never heard of vampires outside of the show The Vampire Diaries. Morbius, 4 stars, weird but interesting. And probably the first thing I've seen Jared Leto win since My So-Called Life that I liked. I'll never like Matt Smith though. Morbius, yeah, that's right, 4 fucking stars. I can totally relate to Morbius because when my blood sugar drops, I get fucking hangry and dangerous, and it's just not good for anyone in my general vicinity. This is probably the hottest Jared Leto has ever been. Like, I am totally in love with him right now and just want to throw my naked body against the TV so that I can be close to him kinda hot. Honestly though, I'm not sure why all the bad reviews for this movie. Sure, it's not great, but it's a hell of a lot better than those bullshit pseudo-intellectual movies I see with circle-jerking fanboys trying to impress their internet mutuals. Quit taking yourselves so damn seriously. Also, Matt Smith was made to be crazy vampire type. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, 5 stars. Completely blows the first film out of the water in my opinion. Non-stop fantastic action scenes every 5 minutes, not a dull point in this film. They went completely in on squeezing as many badass Transformers scenes as they could. Also fleshed out a handful of the human characters, like seeing Sam grow up, his parents learning to let him go, Lennox's frustration with his superiors, Simmons' fight for his country, etc. Something about Optimus's fall and rise in the movie makes me wish I could save the world. Is there a term for propaganda, but it's Transformers? Now let's get into the real controversial one, Sound of Freedom. 5 stars. Very important film with a very important message. Unless you like child abuse, which a lot of people seem to be in favor of. Also talking to the community, not mentioning names, though I could, that are so inclusive unless you have different views or ideologies in them, then they block and lie about you on Twitch streams. This review feels like it really took a turn for a more personal experience for this user, but I'm really curious to check out this Twitch stream. Sound of Freedom, 5 stars. It is the perfect movie to bring down the Hollywood agenda. Whoever thinks child trafficking should be legal should better be in solitary confinement where cockroaches will be your only friends. Children are our future. You take children away, you take away the future away. Mel Gibson is exposing these Hollywood actors who are a part of the agenda, and they will be held accountable and will be punished. And it should not be in a sanitized manner. It hurts me and others that this movie is not being projected into theaters, at least not big ones. It is actually a good thing that there will be a Hollywood strike. Hollywood has fallen. Now there's something to watch. It's really crazy to me that people equate not liking this movie to supporting child trafficking, which just couldn't be further from the truth. People are allowed to judge a movie based solely on its own merit and not on whatever its so-called agenda is, which is a crazy thing to have to explain to an audience who hates Barbie because it's about women. Also, saying this movie isn't being broadcast into theaters, at least not the big ones, is just a straight up lie. Sound of Freedom is one of the most unlikely and biggest hits of the summer. It made more than Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, big summer movies. This movie is a hit. No one is trying to silence it. Get over yourselves. If you don't support this movie, just go ahead and say you support child trafficking and slavery. You don't need to hide your cards by blaming conservatives for your own sin. I also love the people that are obsessed with this movie not because of the child trafficking thing, but because they just love Jim Caviezel. Jim Caviezel, how about this bloke, an absolute star, should win the Best Actor award over Cillian Murphy, even though I'm the biggest Oppenheimer fan. An alpha male film. Jim Caviezel has such an infectious smile. When he smiles, you want to smile. 5 stars. I'm really curious what their take of Passion of the Christ was, which I'm assuming is something like, I really love the message of the movie, but Jesus didn't smile enough. 2.5 stars. This film is an emotional roller coaster. It is very sad and depressing, but also optimistic and hopeful. Jim Caviezel should play Batman, granted that he shaves the beard, and this was all very similar in tone to the Dark Knight trilogy. It did kinda end out of nowhere, but otherwise phenomenal movie. 10 out of 10. James Gunn, if you cast Jim Caviezel as Batman in your Batman movie, I will lose my mind, but also it will be the funniest thing you could possibly do. I want to see the internet's reaction. Pedophiles are lucky I'm not the president or have power. If I was in power, I will demand that all pedophiles that are caught be brutally raped, beaten, and killed. The only cure for pedophiles and predators is a 45 ACP to the skull. This is from Patriot69. Really curious what they thought of Barbie. You know, when you're a kid and you sneak into your sister's room and grab one of her Barbies and take the dress off and suck on the you-know-what part? Once the Margot Robbie Barbies come out, I'm reliving my childhood. You know, it's always the people you most suspect. But speaking of Barbie, 1 star. This movie is the best example in which our world is going. In a world full of feminism, anti-man agenda, liberal freedom, and even worse, Barbie is the worst movie probably of this century. Instead of being a fun summer movie, it is filled with liberal propaganda. Shame on all the people involved in this shit. Barbie, half star, amongst the worst films I've ever watched. The target audience is inadequate liberal activist women who blame men for all of their issues and don't want any expectations of decency to be levied on them at all. Feminism in this film vilifies women who are a healthy weight, women who are nice to other people, women who spend money responsibly, women who work for a living, women who want families, etc. If you actually deep dive into the psychology of the writers, their issue is not men, it is women who are successful and happy. The target audience is envious, miserable women. Okay, obviously a lot of the terrible reviews for Barbie are ridiculous. This one is just insane. This movie vilifies women who are healthy weight. Not true. Women who are nice to other people. What? All of the Barbies are so nice to each other. Women who spend money responsibly. I don't even think that's a topic in this movie. Women who work for a living. There's literally a President Barbie, Barbies that are astronauts, Barbies that have all types of careers. Women who want families. There's a pregnant Barbie. Her name is Midge. It's like they didn't even watch the movie. Brain dead Jim Jones Kool-Aid leading us further away from true equality, further poisoning the already cancer-riddled society culture we live in today. Hell is here on Earth, baby. Hell is sitting through this movie. Where was the Ghislaine Maxwell Barbie helping sex-traffic children to Barbie Island? This person is so obsessed with Ghislaine Maxwell out of nowhere, they had to insert it into their Barbie review. And yet in their Indiana Jones review, they said, loved it, a fitting finale. Mads Mikkelsen looking fit in that SS uniform. Now hey, don't get me wrong, Mads Mikkelsen, good looking guy, but it's not the Nazi paraphernalia that he's wearing that gets me going. Moonlight, half a star. If you're gay and you like this movie, you don't deserve to be gay. Hashtag gaslight, hashtag girlboss, hashtag gatekeep. Moonlight, 2 stars. I'm neither racist nor homophobic, but if I were, this film would probably get 0 stars. Saying you're not homophobic because you gave Moonlight 2 stars is like saying you can't be racist because you're friends with someone who is friends with a black person. Moonlight, 2 stars. A movie about a gay disabled black guy that only ableist guilty white liberals watched. Moonlight, an enjoyable coming of age drama that is worthy of its award season buzz. 2 stars. Moonlight, half a star. I really want to get everything out of my chest, but before I really say anything, I'm not against homosexuality, and if you're gay, I'm happy for you, but that doesn't mean that everything talks about homosexuality should be amazing or great, and if you're one of the persons that sees any film that talks about homosexuality and just don't care about the cons and just giving it 5 stars without truly being fair, I will say one thing to you. This is the longest run-on sentence I've ever seen. Shame on you for destroying cinema. And let's talk about Moonlight. If I'm a director, I will never agree on this because there is nothing here to work with. There is no story, it's just condoning homosexuality, which I'm fine with. But it's not okay for taking advantage on people who don't care about cinema and who only care to see a story of a homosexuality, but I won't deny that it had a great cinematography and a great crew, but wasting it like that is just fucked up. Okay, so what movie is safe? What do people like? Across the Spider-Verse, a movie critics and audiences both seem to universally praise. Let's see what people are saying on Letterboxd. Across the Spider-Verse, half a star. The film is just a complete mess and underwhelming, inadequate from the poor animation style that looks like an AI dumpster fire, plus a poorly thin plot. Disappointing performance from the cast and poorly written characters. Incredibly boring movie that feels like it goes on forever and has way too many cameos. Pacing is awful and clunky. The third act is one of the most disappointing in history, to go along with it being one of the top 3 worst movies ever. Entire movie is just bland/dull. Relies on the brand of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Characters are as lacking as the story, which is to say horrendous. The movie is lazy as hell, plus a contender for the worst movie of all time. Ugly, horrendous film, #Spider-Man. Across the Spider-Verse, half a star. This was the single worst piece of entertainment I've ever witnessed in my entire life. Not only did I waste a precious 2.5 hours of my life, it left me annoyed and depressed at the sad reality that this constitutes a fun way to spend the weekend in 2023. This movie didn't even have anything to do with Spider-Man. It's just a confused animation about an angsty kid who can shoot webs. How anyone can sit through this and say, wow, that was well made, is beyond me. A simplistic telling of a multi-hero tale. Quite honestly, it's a sad rehash of the first movie, and it doesn't live up to even that subpar standard. Especially when films such as Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness exist and set the gold standard for how movies such as this should be produced. Overall, it was a disappointing sequel, and I will not be watching the third installment of this lackluster series. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is by far the worst movie of 2023. I cannot believe a movie like this was given the okay to be released. This movie is an absolute insult to real movie fans such as myself, and would have never been accepted back when people had standards. Spider-Man is a horrible character and will always be a horrible character. It doesn't matter which version they come out with. If you enjoyed this abomination of a film, it's safe to say that you're just not worth taking seriously whatsoever. This person clearly doesn't know what they're talking about because Abomination is a Hulk villain. Okay, so the new superhero stuff isn't working for people. What about one of the classics of the genre, The Dark Knight? The Dark Knight, half a star. Nolan behind the scenes talking with the camera crew and editors saying, how can we make this movie piss ugly and unwatchable and nauseating and really fucking boring and stupid? Can't believe people think this is a masterpiece. The Dark Knight, half a star. Genuinely one of the most unhinged cinematic disasters in my lifetime. A bad message delivered incoherently, a narrative chasing its own tail, and a script so unsure of itself the characters that are supposed to be challenging the main character simply recite hollow platitudes. The Dark Knight, half a star. Honestly, who writes this garbage? Terrible dialogue, awful overacting by Ledger. Maybe if you lick your lips again, it'll really convey the character. Couldn't make it past the halfway point. We're in a time right now in the history of cinema where we're not just experiencing superhero movie fatigue, but generic overblown IP fatigue. And these reviews just go to show that while most audiences are rewarding films that take risks and have fresh takes, there's always going to be people who prefer the dullest, safest, most mindless options. And as long as those people are voicing their opinions online, I'll be here roasting them.